But still, the Eddie Brock Venom symbiote. We have a symbiote right now trying to crush freedom, crush ideas, and crush conservatives. It's the media, big tech, government symbiote right now. Here's our first story. Newsbusters. The story will be in the show notes. Facebook overhauls platform. Will reduce political posts and news feeds. As if on cue. How does the symbiote work? I just told you what it is. Media, big tech and big business and government all feeding off each other like not so much parasites, but symbiotes. There's a difference. Symbiosis and parasitic activity are different. They benefit from each other. They don't suckle off each other and take each other's energy. They magnify each other's energy. So how did media folks and big tech collude to stop ideas from getting out? Because ideas will crush their monopoly over what you should think. Well, here's a quote from the Newsbusters piece about how Facebook's now going to crush political pages like mine. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg recently commented, one of the top pieces of feedback that we're hearing from our community right now is that people don't want politics and fighting to take over their experience on our services. Really? That happened conveniently after CNN's hilariously named Reliable Sources newsletter, The Coffee Boy, George Costanza puts out at CNN, when they speculated on how major reforms to Facebook will target commentators, specifically popular conservatives. Quote, Zuckerberg didn't elaborate on how Facebook might reduce political content shown to users in their newsfeed. CNN senior media reporter Oliver Darcy wrote in the newsletter, quote, right-wing pundits such as Dan Bongino and Ben Shapiro have built digital empires, largely driven by their Facebook pages. Will Zuckerberg move to put a dent in their business? Here's Darcy, media clown, joker, one of the dopiest human beings alive. And by the way, I'll show you about this clown in a minute. The biggest grifter in the media right now. How people have fallen for this utter, complete buffoon scam is unreal. Here's Oliver Darcy at CNN, who's bothered by me and my ideas because I exposed him as a fraud. He was on the wrong side of collusion. He was a hoaxer. He was on the wrong side of Spygate, on the wrong side of the coronavirus story, on the wrong side of the HCL story, on the wrong side of Hunter Biden, and on the wrong side of Andrew Cuomo. So Oliver Darcy's embarrassed because he pretends to be a journalist when in fact he's a grifting buffoon. So instead of acknowledging his buffoonery and apologizing to the public for being such a moron, falling for the pee-pee hoax, what does Oliver Dopey do? Oliver Dopey comes out and calls for the suppression of people like me and Ben Shapiro and others who exposed him as the fraud he is. Standard totalitarian authoritarian move. By the way, he says built our empire on Facebook. That's actually quite hilarious. Facebook. We're smarter than Oliver, and Oliver's kind of embarrassed that he doesn't have a 1/1000th of the following I do, but we built empires everywhere. Crush one, another one will pop up. We're like the Hydra. Cut off one head, 62 more heads appear. I'm not kidding. He wants to stop us because he's a communist at heart, but he'll never do that, and it quietly drives him wild. It drives him absolutely wild. And Darcy in that piece where he says, be a real shame if Facebook crushed their pages and tried to destroy their business. This is the mob mentality of communists like Oliver Darcy, who's, by the way, a sniveling coward. If you saw him in person, he would run away from you and hide in a corner. But Darcy, who's a fraud, this is him practicing the mob mentality, where he walks into the deli in a mob-infested neighborhood and say, it'd be a real shame if you didn't use our private sanitation here. Well, I don't need your private sanitation, Mr. Mobster. I have my own company. It'd be a real shame if your place burned down. Well, what does that have to do with me using your sanitation company? I don't know. You figure it out. That's Darcy. It'd be a real shame if Facebook took their pages down. I'll just start a new company like I always do and pocket more money. Seriously, I save everything because I'm prepared for the day when these people come after me, unlike these other idiots out there on the liberal side. Here's Oliver Darcy, who likes to employ, the real shame tactic. It'd be a real shame if your place burned down. Oliver Darcy, this is when he was at Campus Reform, is a former editor of digital media for Campus Reform, where he was tasked with reporting on waste, fraud, and abuse taking place at our nation's college campuses. Additionally, Darcy was responsible for editing the website's video content and graphic design. Prior to joining the Leadership Institute, Oliver founded exposingleftist.com, a video-driven website dedicated to exposing the inherent failures found at the core of liberal philosophies. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy, I almost admire his grift. CNN is paying this utter buffoon because he failed. He failed in conservative media trying to do the principled thing, then decided to sell his soul, went over and basically did a big smoke job on CNN and got them to pay him. After founding exposingleftist.com. What a buffoon.